Today, Alaska Airlines says more than 10,000 pilots left the industry during the pandemic. Industry experts all agree there is a nationwide pilot shortage at all of the airlines right now. So what else is contributing to this shortage? And what are the barriers in training and hiring new airline pilots?
Fox 13 News reporter Jennifer Lee goes to Boeing Field tonight to find out.
On days like today in the Pacific Northwest, a lot of people are eager to fly.
Galvin Flying has been at Boeing Field for over 90 years, and interest in aviation is soaring. Over the last 3 years, the number of students jumped from 300 to more than 400, but only about 10% plan to make it a career.
You have to be very careful because it costs a lot of money and it takes a lot of time to become an airline pilot.
Adam Keppert started his journey back in 2018. The federal government requires about 1,500 hours to fly for an airline. To meet those requirements, Keppert will spend the next 2 years as a full-time flight instructor.
When folks are trying to make that decision, they're weighing how much does it cost, how much time will it take me, and still trying to figure out, even if they think there's a big demand for pilots right now, is it worth it for me to go down that route?
All right, straight.
It's not unreasonable to see costs go up to $100,000 to $200,000 to pay for all the required certificates and ratings.
When there's demand for pilots, that demand can't get filled instantly.
Jimmy Anderson is an aviation lawyer and says past events made it easier for airlines to pick up the demand for pilots.
We've had World War II and the Vietnam War, which created a lot of pilots that didn't stay in the military after they were done with their flying education and their military service. After both of those events, we had a whole history of going from 3-person crew in aircraft to 2-person crew in aircraft, and that created kind of an extra load of pilots that were on the market. And then most recently, the age for mandatory retirement for airline pilots went from 60 to 65. And again, that created a whole bunch of extra pilots.
Over the last several days, Alaska had to cancel dozens of flights affecting thousands of passengers. The airline says it had 63 fewer pilots prepared to fly in April, citing training delays due to the Omicron surge earlier this year. It says, quote, to bring new pilots into our ranks, we launched a new pilot academy, founded a program to develop and support BIPOC pilots, and continue to support the careers of pilots that want to move from a regional carrier, Horizon Air, to a job at Alaska.
The airlines are definitely starting to recognize that with incentives like that, they're able to get a few more people in the pipeline.
Back in the late 1980s, there were about a dozen full-service flight schools here on Boeing Field, but that number is now down to just one, Galvin Flying. And again, it's mainly because of costs.
We need to make it easier for people to get their pilot's licenses and get through the process so that it's not so expensive and time-consuming for people.
68 Charlie.
As for Keppert, he's enrolled in the Horizon Pilot Development Program, which will help defray some of the costs on his way to becoming an airline pilot.
At some point, hopefully, I'll make it the first step, Horizon, and then work my way through on up to Alaska.
In Seattle, Jennifer Lee, Fox 13 News.